G'day guys, this is the Staff Sarge, just with a little thing about the state of play for MechWarrior Online. Now, as is obvious because of that fan trailer thingy-mabob, whatever it was I put up, I've been a massive fan of the Battletech series, and of the MechWarrior games, and of course MechWarrior Online. So, here's how the game's going at the moment. Don't play it. Slight highball there. It's... The game at the moment is not terrible, but it's got a lot of things that are very wrong with it, and also PGI is going full retard, unfortunately. What I'm saying is that, okay, MechWarrior Online at the moment, you should not spend any kind of money on it. If it's the kind of game that if you've seen around, it still seems interesting, then yeah, consider playing it. But definitely do not put money down. Do not buy MC. Do not buy any of the Project Phoenix packs. Fuck that. Hell, I got a refund for that stuff. The PGI finally, they've reached a point where it's very obvious they have no idea what they're doing. So I mean that is the short summary. It's just Paul and PGI. That's the short summary of what's going on with this game. The long summary, that'll take a minute. So, alright, so it started off with it being a fun game. So I got into it during the closed beta, and it was fun, but it had some issues with it. Like, there was some just general weirdness. Although, tackling mechs was hilarious. I loved it being in a hunchback, just running around a corner. So, oh look, there's a Jenna. Clothesline him. So no, it was actually fun. So it went to open beta. They patched it up. They made a couple of changes. They took out tackling for a start, but they did a couple of things which really improved the game. Now, they still broke a few things. The big one that came out at one point was what was known as L Armageddon. They broke LRMs, so they were ridiculously overpowered. They would just pound all the damage on the head section and kill mechs instantly, pretty much. But aside from those, again, still a fun game. Now, here's where things got really good. Yes, it actually did. First of all, they gave a netcode fix. They fixed the what was it? Hit state rewind, I think they called it, which is where it isn't all server based, which was causing a lot of problems with lag. I'm in Australia. I had to lead by a good second or two, 10, 20 meters in front of a mech when shooting lasers to actually hit the bastards. So they put in this hit state rewind, and it worked fantastic. Now you could actually aim and shoot at mechs. And they also bumped up the speed of some projectile weapons. The most obvious one being the PPC, which meant that now you could actually hit targets that were moving a little bit. If they were fast moving, you need to still have a pretty good aim and luck. But against a target that was moving at all, now you could actually hit them. This was huge. So that immediately made the game a lot better for actually trying to shoot stuff. At about the same time, they added in a mech called the Highlander. Now, if you don't know about battle mechs, the Highlander has a technique called the Highlander Burial, because it's a very, very heavy assault mech. It's a 90-ton mech equipped with jump jets, which means that it can jump up and stomp on top of any mech. Now, this is devastating. It's called a death from above attack, and these are absolutely devastating. You can't do DFAs in MechWarrior Online, unfortunately. Everyone was really upset by that. It's just like, hey, they're bringing the Highlander. Maybe now they get death from above. No. But what it did do is it gave you a mech with some very powerful long-range weapons. I mean, you can strap some PPCs and Gauss rifle, like sniper weapons, onto this mech, which has jump jets, which allows you to jump up over an obstacle, shoot, and jump back down again. At about the same time that they made it so you could actually hit targets with long-range weaponry. The end result is a turn to MechWarrior 4, which is Pop-Tarts fucking everywhere. Pop-Tarts, I mentioned this in my Let's Play. That Shadow Cat that decided to Pop-Tart me. It's a technique where you wait behind cover for a mech to come in range, then you jump jet up, fire your salvo, and then jump jet back down again. Now, you're only exposed for a second, and the enemy can shoot you back easily in that amount of time. But because you're rigged up to be, one heavy volley, which has a long recycle time, means that you do all your damage in that burst, and you drop back down. If they've got fast-firing weapons, they don't get anywhere near as much damage in as you're capable of. And the MechWarrior 4 games, it turned into this a lot. This was the primary tactic because it worked insanely well. There was no penalty for doing it. So what ended up happening? Well, I tend to roll with the goons, and they had a temporary solution. They call it the Hex Stalker. Now, this is a stalker that's loaded up with 6 very big laser weapons. Now, the obvious problem is that in this game there's heat, and it generated an insane amount of heat. You fire off a volley, maybe a second one, and then you would shut right the hell down. and you'd be very vulnerable. But the sheer amount of damage you could output in that one volley meant that it gave you an effective counter against Pop-Tarts. Against most other targets, you were very, very vulnerable, because if you missed, then you'd be shut down and they had free reign to do damage on you. Now, not too long afterwards, the good news is it only took them a month, and trust me, this is fast for PGI. It took them about a month, and they put in a pop-tarting nerf. They made it so when you fire jump jets, first of all, the screen shakes, which throws off your aim a little bit. That's okay, because if you're good enough, you can get your crosshair still on the target. But they also added in a crosshair shake. But that's okay, if you're able to overcome that, you can, keep the crosshair mostly on target. They also added in a shake for any weapons in the arms, which was independent of the crosshair, which means that no matter which way you're aiming, chances are your shot's going to miss. So that was brilliant, because now you couldn't pop-tart as easily. You can still do it if you cut the jump jets and then shoot, but the skill level is so much higher that pop-tarting more or less dropped off. But sniper mechs were still the preference. So the Highlander, you didn't see as many pop-tarting Highlanders, but Highlanders were still really damn popular. But there was one small problem. They also fixed an issue with the SRMs. They were causing way too much damage, basically. They had a glitch with how the explosion worked. It was doing a lot more damage than it should do. So they fixed that. Unfortunately, they also didn't fix the other problem, which was the base damage of an SRM wasn't high enough. So now they were doing bugger all damage. And with the hit state rewind, there was another glitch, which meant that half the time, your SRMs would literally do nothing. I've seen it from several players that they actually did tests. They had two mechs just stand in front of each other. Okay, not moving, just standing. One would fire a volley of SRMs. Now, he saw the SRMs hit the mech. The other guy saw the warning light come up, which says, oh crap, you just got hit, with the SRMs. But he took no damage at all. Like, his armor sections were literally saying, you have taken no damage. So, SRMs completely and utterly broken. So, and SRMs are your primary brawling weapons. They're the primary ones for getting up close and personal. When you get in close with SRMs, you used to be able to just wreck stuff, but they were kind of balanced because you had no range. And if they were fast moving, good luck trying to hit them. So they were kind of balanced, but at the same time kind of broken, especially against assault mech players. But of course, now they were completely and utterly broken. So the end result is that, assault mechs, 2 PPC plus 1 Gauss, that was your primary force if you wanted to actually, win. Apparently in low ELOs, like if you're up against like pubbies who don't win too much, they got a thing called ELO in there, which is it tries to balance players by their wins. When you start off with, you're mostly fighting against players who have really weird goddamn loadouts, like lots of machine guns and flamers, useless weapons. But if you keep winning, then eventually you start going up against players with actually effective loadouts, which basically means you walk through a field and it's just like, oh look, I think I see the enemy, and then bang, 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 you're dead. So not fun. Lights. It also made that lights and medium mechs, they became useless because their primary armor, they're not armored like assault and heavy mechs, but what they do have is soft armor in the form of just being really goddamn fast and hard to hit. Now in the tabletop, this was fantastic because they get the enemy gets a penalty to hit if they're moving really fast. In this game, because of hit state rewind working really well and sniper weapons actually being very fast time on target. Again, they just, they take a salvo or two and then they're dead. And brawlers are just useless because, again, these long-range weapons, they still work in close. They work really well in close, which means that the advantage you get from using like an AC-20, not SRMs because as I said, they're dead, they're broken. The advantage of using an AC-20 isn't all that much. I mean, you do a lot of damage pinpoint, but it also generates more heat than a Gauss rifle. It requires ammo which can explode, unlike a PPC, and just overall, you're not really... And you have to get in goddamn range. By the time you're in range, they've already had enough time to unload a salvo or two of these sniper weapons, which means that you don't take brawlers, you take your own sniper mech. So what does PGI have to say about this? Well, they decided to finally get around to introducing the fixes that were required. They brought in third-person view, and they made the heat changes, which was known as ghost heat, and they also cancelled dropship mode. So, third-person view, which a lot of the grognards was like, you could do third-person view in MechWarrior 4, we should totally do it now. Third-person view is part of the reason why pop-tarting was endemic. I prefer using first-person view because of the fact that you can actually aim. In third-person view, the aim kind of gets a little bit thrown off. But see, it's not so much a bad thing. It's just the fact that if you're going for a game that is all competitive online play, why would you throw that in? I mean, tanks it works because you need to position yourself against terrain, and you need to have an idea of where things are positioning. In MechWarrior, you're driving a stompy robot with all the viewpoints. If you in a tank, you can't really go with the first person because of the fact that where the fuck are you going to look at it? But these are mechs which have big windows, so you're driving a mech. The heat change is known as ghost heat. This, oh boy. This was a push to try. They want to reduce the amount of snipers. They notice a lot of people using lots of large lasers and then PPCs. So they put in a thing called ghost heat, which is certain weapons, and by that I mean most weapons, will generate extra heat if you have so many of them firing at once. For PPCs, I believe it's 2. For large lasers, 3 or 4. Medium lasers is set to 8 because of the sway back. And the fun thing is they actually released a champion version of the sway back, which actually goes over the ghost heat requirement, which means that you overheat like a bitch. Now, the fun thing about this is that they said it was designed to stop alpha. Alpha damage is, the amount of... A mech that does alpha damage is a sniper mech. It's one that fires a salvo, does a shitload of damage, and then has to go back to reload. A DPS mech, on the other hand, is one that uses, pulse lasers, SRMs kinda, AC2s and 5s, if... I got my own comments about the lower class autocannons. Those kind of weapons where they don't do a lot of damage in one hit, but their recycles very quick, so they're able to just keep on pouring out the damage. Or they have a lot of ammunition, or they don't need ammunition, and also their heat management isn't as severe. So anything running PPCs is not a DPS mech, that's an alpha mech. And they're saying, Ghost Heat, it will help stop alpha design. It's like, fucking how? How exactly does increasing... They will still be able to get off their volley and then pop back. Yeah, they're generating a bit more heat, that just means they need to wait a little bit longer. And while they're waiting and cooling down, then they're behind cover and not taking damage. Whereas a DPS mech needs to expose itself, and often by the time it's overheating, it's like, oh crap, I'm actually fully engaged. They need to either stop firing and try and retreat, or they keep on going and they overheat and then they get shot to shit and die. So it severely nerfs DPS mechs, which were already having problems. And it doesn't do anything against the sniper designs, the alpha damage mechs. And as for dropship mode, the dropship mode was the one that everyone was really looking forward to. It was going to be a mode where you could select a bunch of mechs and then you just drop in one at a time. So you drop in with one mech, you stomp around, you blow some stuff up, and then you die. And then you can drop in with your next mech. And it was going to be good because that's much more flexible and fluid. It gets people acting a lot more aggressive because, hey, you have reserves. It's similar to how War Thunder actually works with its aircraft, and that works fantastic. You can just go into a melee, shoot the shit out of it, it's like, oh no, my plane's exploded, bail out, get another plane. Easy done. They've decided to abandon that for God knows why. That one isn't really a rage against PGI, it's just it's something that everyone's really been looking forward to, and it's just disappointing it won't be in there. So the whole point of this is that they had a thing for Project Phoenix, and I did actually pay the full $80 for that thing because 12 mechs and a bunch of other bonus stuff. So fantastic. I've refunded that now. I held out. I stopped playing for a while, but I still held on to it because maybe it'll get good. But in the last 2 weeks or so, it's just been pants on heads retarded all over the place. It's just, the main thing that got me, this is what finally convinced me to drop out of it, is the fact that they brought in a new crit system, which is designed to make machine guns and LBXs more effective, because the amount of damage you do on a crit will apply itself to internal structure. The problem is internal structure is still weak as shit, which means that as soon as your armor's gone, you tend to die really damn quick. And people have been saying, it's like, no, we want to have it, we would like it so that matches will last longer, so you have more of, mechs losing equipment and weapons and all that kind of crap, while still trying to slug it out, just like in regular Battletech. Increase the amount of internal structures so the mechs don't just take a salvo and then die instantly. But no, instead they decided to make a system where you actually do more damage to the internals. Also, they brought out another champion mech. It's called the Kentaro Golden Boy. It's a premium version of the not champion mech, sorry, a hero version of the Kintaro, which is a crap, I'm trying to remember. I'm not familiar with the Kintaro at all. It's one of those mechs that I just never saw. I believe it's a Kurita, like fast skirmisher, a bit like a Centurion, but a lot more focused on the missiles. So they brought out the Golden Boy, which you can buy for actual money. Please don't. And it's actually broken because it uses SRMs. It uses a lot of SRMs, which don't do a damage anyway. Like I said, they're still fucked. And it also goes over the Ghost Heat threshold because SRM4s count along with SRM6s. That was the other change they made. They made so that way similar weapons count towards each other. So you can't go, oh, PPCs and ER PPCs have Ghost Heat, but if I use one of each, then I'm fine. No, if you use any mix of those over the limit, then you get Ghost Heat. And yeah, SRM 6s and 4s means that you fire a volley and you just shut down because, again, Ghost Heat. And it's also very thinly armored, which means that you die instantly. Apparently, several people have actually bought Golden Boys. Not anyone I actually know, but I've heard of people who have come across them and says that, yeah, they die first. They die really damn fast. I should also mention here, I haven't actually played the game in the last month. I just haven't bothered patching it, and I can't be bothered. But I'm still keeping track of what's happening with the game, and it's really not convincing me to get back into it. What else was there? Oh, Russ, the guy one of the head guys, he decided to try and explain why they made these kind of changes. Like, mainly the third-person view, why they decided to bring a third-person view. It confused me. His explanation was basically just like, I didn't want to have third person view because I want to be in the mech. I'm just like, yeah, I can agree to that. It's just like, but people said they want third person. It's like, okay, I can agree with that too. Like, people prefer playing third person as long as they're not using it to pop tart like a little bitch. Then that's all good. But the way he put it was that people said that third person was in MechWarrior 4, so you just totally include there, and it didn't sound like he did any explanation as to why they wanted it in there. Maybe they wanted it because my immersion. Which I would still say first person is better, but okay, whatever. Maybe they want it because they're pop-town little bitches. You need to actually look into that. He also tried to use some explanation about he had his 11-year-old play the game, and because his 11-year-old didn't understand what the hell was going on, then it's just like, ooh, a third-person view will obviously fix that. That'll make it a lot easier. Maybe, or maybe you could actually put a tutorial in your fucking game, you moron. It's been almost a year now. It's come up to a year now, and you still don't have a goddamn tutorial. Alright? I got banned from a clan because I decided to copy a whole bunch of their tutorial stuff to another forum so my mates could actually understand what the fuck was going on. And yet, you still don't have a goddamn... It's the one thing that you need that would immediately... Yes, okay, it took World of Tanks like about over 2 years to actually include a proper tutorial to teach players how to drive tanks. Okay, and you could say this. Ooh, it took 2 years. Like, that's the same excuse that Origin had for when they had that. They had some vulnerability that Steam also had. So it's like, yeah, sure. I mean, it took them that long because they were the first ones to be hit by this shit. You don't have that excuse. All right, World of Tanks has a tutorial mode, and it's working out really well. You know this. You should know about your competition. Alright, there is no excuse for MechWarrior Online not having a simple tutorial. It's like, well, we put it on the offline shooting mode. It's like, yeah, sure, that just allows them to fuck around with the controls, but it doesn't teach them anything. It just puts them in a mech in front of a target and they can shoot it. It doesn't explain how to drive the mech. It doesn't explain how to target them, where to target them. Just so they can fuck around and maybe learn by themselves, which they could also do in matches over a long period of time. It's not effective. And they'll just do the thing where it's just like, oh, if I shoot the head section, then it dies really fast. Cool, and they try it in the match. But the problem is because of the fact that they're not offline anymore, they're actually online in a server. Even when hits say rewind, they're not going to be shooting the head section, which means that, oh god, online is broken, my mechs are broken, everyone else is OP. What the fuck? And then people rage quit. You need a fucking tutorial. Jesus Christ, I can't believe I went off that long on that kind of a tangent. That is the one thing, honestly, if they came out and said, here's a new patch, we added tutorial mode. You know what, fuck it, I'd patch up the game and I'd start playing it again, because that would show that they actually gave a shit. At the moment, it doesn't seem like they're giving a shit. And it's really... Jesus Christ. Oh, man. And it's really, really showing in the latest thing. I'll get to what they've said a little bit later, but there's one other thing that Russ said. He tweeted about with one of the goons about the ghost heat stuff, and one of them was about the fact that, well, have you noticed you've been shot less by hex stalkers? Being shot at less by stalkers with 6 PPCs. And the end response, the response from most people was just like, it's like, you're right, we have been shot less by stalkers with 6 PPCs. However, it hasn't stopped us from being shot by teams which fire off over a dozen PPCs, along with half a dozen Gauss rifle slugs, which immediately wrecks everyone, which isn't affected by ghost heat. It's a complete and utter... He actually outright said that ghost heat is supposed to stop the alpha. It doesn't. You don't understand your own game. How... I don't understand this possibility, because of the fact that I'm not one of those, they're fake, they're just in for the money, yada yada. It's like, no, come on, they run a game company. They have to realize that, the best way to make people want to play a game is to make a good game. So how are they coming to this kind of logic? Is it that they're only playing with themselves in the game and applying those kind of patches? Apparently their testing team is all in-house, and they must be doing things that are just not happening in the real world, because these fixes make no goddamn sense. I mean, even with the outcry, like save MechWarrior Online and the Ask the Developer stuff, like all of the stuff of people saying, things to fix it, they just seem to be outright ignoring. It's goddamn weird. I don't know. It's also really disappointing that they seem to... They try and turn it into a hug box, and that's the hardest thing. I mean, I'm a brony, I'm with brony communities, and hug boxing is the one thing that just pisses me right the fuck off, because it is so goddamn self-destructive. It is... I mean, the way that they're doing it right now is that they're just deleting any comments. They're ignoring comments, just like, this bit is broken. Like, SRMs aren't working. Sniper weapons are overpowered. Ghost heat does nothing. Why would you waste your time on this? Why can't you just tweak the settings and move away from tabletop? Because the tabletop system doesn't work on a computer game. Unless you're making something like MechWarrior Tactics. MechWarrior Tactics, 1-to-1 tabletop to the thing. That because it's a strategy game and it randomizes where you're hitting. In a first-person game where people can actually, pinpoint damage, you can't go 1-to-1, because then some weapons become insanely overpowered and other weapons become insanely underpowered, and some mechs will just not be effective at all to the point where they're only used as target practice. You can't do that, and yet they still do. They ignore it by basically saying that they're haters. They also put out another champion mech, a catapult champion mech, which is equipped with LRMs and SRMs, streak SRMs. It has no efficiency. The LRMs are barely effective, but the streak SRMs are useless. They don't do any kind of damage. They will hit, but they do like 1 damage per missile on a random piece of the mech, which means that you fire off several salvos and you've got a mech that's lost maybe half of its armor all over. That doesn't actually do anything. It doesn't knock out the mech. It just makes it a little bit easier for someone else with actual weapons that do proper damage to do so. So, alright, so to close that, this is the bit that really... It just confused me, honestly. I try to read it, and it's just like, how can you honestly... Are you trying your hardest not to realize that you're going down shit creek? Is that... They did an interview with I think it was No Guts No Galaxy, and that's a whole nother rant on those guys. They're part of the hug boxing problem. They're a podcast who does a lot of MechWarrior Online stuff, all MechWarrior Online stuff in fact, but they're paid for it by the company, and they also shoot down any kind of criticism of any kind. They're extremely defensive, and that's the kind of shit that you do not need if you're trying to put out a quality product. That's the kind of shit you need if you need to inflate your ego and, not go and have a little cry about being a bitch. I mean, Jesus Christ. Anyway, so they did an interview, and one of the things that the developers said was they were talking about... I think they were mentioning about how, like the Founders Packs and all that, they got a shitload of people pre-ordered the Founders Packs. And now recently, like Project Phoenix, and you can buy MC on its own to buy, like Hero Mechs and that kind of shit. And they were talking about how it's gone down recently, and one of the things that they said was like, maybe we were making too much money at the start. it's like they're trying to defend it. It's just like saying, it's like, well, yes, it's gone down, but that's because we were doing too well at the start and we made too much money, and now it's calmed down. It's like, well, actually, no, it's because at the start your game was fun and people were paying for to have fun in this game, and now it's not fun. In fact, it's gone full retard, and as a result, people aren't going to be paying the money. It isn't an issue with it is an issue with your game quality. It's along the lines of one person compared it to, imagine if they came out and said, well, it turns out that people were having too much fun in the early game, so we had to patch it to fix that. It's like, no, why? How would you even reach that conclusion? How is that possibly a good thing? I mean, okay, but alright, so this has gone on for way longer than I anticipated. I just really like ranting about this shit because, oh god. But alright, to close it off properly, I will say this one good thing about it. I mean, in terms of, after all the stuff about Ghost Heat and Russ and Paul being just complete idiots, and all the changes to the meta which didn't actually do anything, and NGNG being shills, and the Ask the Developer thing being completely and utterly thrown to the wayside because Ask the Developer, they get the top 15 questions. You can ask a crap load of questions. Like, everyone gets a question asked, and there's often 40, 50. People can vote for those, and the top 15 get put forward. But the way they do it is that they cherry pick from those 15, and often they completely ignore the questions that people actually want answered, and they cherry pick the really easy ones. They can often just answer with, "Oh, don't worry, it will happen in launch." It's just completely. But regardless of all that, there is one good thing. Two good things if you count early MechWarrior Online. It might become good again. I'm holding out hope, but not too much. There's one good thing that they did. There's a charity, I believe it's still going. I am at this very moment, I can't because my internet is dead, sadly. There's a charity called Sarah's Mech. I'll put a link, when I put up this video, I'll put a link to it. You pay $10 to this charity, they will give you a free Jenner. And that's all good. It's oh cool, like again, World of Tanks has done the same kind of thing. You donate to a charity, and they'll throw in stuff. But here's where it gets good. So you put $10 towards the charity, and you get a free robot, and it comes with its own mech bay and all that kind of stuff. And it looks kind of adorable. It's like the General Sherman skin, except it has a teddy bear on it. It looks really cute. But what they've said is that all of the money that gets donated, every single cent of that, with the exception of what they need to take out for like PayPal, credit card, all that kind of bullshit, all of the money goes to the charity. It's a Cancer Council of Canada, something like that. So it's a good charity, and all of the money goes to it. PGI gets nothing out of it. Last when I checked, they'd made over 100 grand, and it's still going. They made something like not in the first week, I think it was like the first day, they raised something like 30 grand. Hell, I bought 2 of them. So it is a good charity. If you're interested in mechs at any point, if you're gonna put down money on it, just throw the $10 at this charity because PGI gets nothing, and if you do end up playing the game, you have a free Jenner there, and it's one of the good Jenners. You can modify it up to be really effective once the changes are made, so that way light mechs are actually effective again and not just target practice. So yeah, that's what I got to say about MechWarrior Online. It's really disappointing because it was really fun, and I'm one of the more hardcore supporters of it. But even I've just gone, you know what? Just fuck your shit. I am totally out. If I get a refund for my Founders Pack at this point, I fucking would. But I think the boat has well and truly sailed on that, so I'm not gonna bother. Project Phoenix though, don't even bother. The mechs weren't all that interesting, with the exception of the assault mech, which was the Battle Master. That was the only one that was actually really worth the money. But hey, 12 free mechs. Not 12 free mechs, but 12 mechs for $80 and a bunch of other stuff. Not bad value if the game was fun. So where do we go from here? Well, about the only place we can go is, there's MechWarrior 4 Mercs, which unfortunately you still can't get online like you used to. MTX is still dead. That's not coming back ever. MechWarrior 3 I'm actually starting to play again. Hopefully I'll be doing an LP of that soon-ish. I have no idea when. I need to figure out why my joystick won't work. I have to use a VMware VirtualBox. And also, what I've just downloaded, I haven't had time to play because, as I briefly mentioned, my internet is completely dead. I can't play it online. But MechWarrior Living Legends, I've been hearing rumblings that a lot of people have been very dissatisfied with MechWarrior Online. they're moving over to Living Legends. They're going to try and kickstart that again and get a lot more people playing. So once my internet is up, which you can tell because this video will be uploaded, I will be playing MechWarrior Living Legends, and I will probably link to where that's happening, as well as how you can get the game. So this has been a half-hour long rant. Jesus Christ, I'm mad about robots. And yep, that's about it. I'll see you guys later on. Hopefully with a bit more robot stomping action, but probably not on MechWarrior Online. See you later.